Congressman, for meeting with us
My
at the South
pleasure.
Florida Tea Party. You came out to our April 15th event right after the bailout in the largest spending plan. You've been fighting for the taxpayer here in Congress, and what I wanted to give you today is a petition that of people in your district that signed our petition stopping the spending, the out of control government, limiting the scale and making it responsible for the people. You're one of the few congressmen that stood up and said, hey, we definitely need to do something with the economy, but this bailout wasn't the right procedure. And thank you for having the confidence and courage to do that. I know you got a lot of calls from people in your district and outside the state of Florida. But what was the largest motivating factor for you to vote that way?
Well, I just think that we come from a society with the way that I was brought up, as with Ronald Reagan as our president, and as a constitutional law scholar, having taught at West Point, that that this country is best served when it's served by the people, directly by the people, and that includes business and the free market. And yeah, there's going to be times in our history when companies grow and fail and come and go, but there's always better companies that come along after that. And saying that certain aspects of our free market or capitalist society needs to be bailed out because they're more important than another company that may come and take its place is a new phenomenon. We don't do that here. And it was just something that I felt like at the time, along with the stimulus and other expansions of government, the federal government, not what our founding fathers intended us to be as Americans, with a centralized national government in Washington, D.C., basically dictating to the states and to the local governments, and also to private citizens and private companies, how they should run their businesses, and that we know better up here in Washington how to take the money from the people and redistribute it out there to those people we think deserve it most. And so all those things collectively just signify a change in the winds of attitude in this country that we've never seen before. And I appreciate the work of the Tea Parties. I was glad to be with you there in West Palm Beach. That was a very exciting day, despite the rain. But it was the beginning of a movement that I think really exemplifies the revolutionary spirit, which I believe is still alive and well in all of us in America today. And despite the fact that the beat goes on with the administration and with the majority and Speaker Pelosi, we're dealing with healthcare right now. We are going to continue to fight, and we have been able to, kind of knock them back on their heels a little bit with our town halls, and that's directly a result of the efforts of you and the people that you've rallied to not only support the town halls, but to come to Washington and tell us what you're thinking.
I know sometimes we've been a little more vocal than what Congress would like to hear, but it does seem to work. They don't like the gentle tone. I know a large amount of the press has been portraying us and the conservative movement in general, Tea Party movement, as the no, but I think the next step really is a proactive step of maybe looking at markets and finding solutions that we can have a free market system, and we can maybe have a true healthcare reform, not a government takeover. Do you want to talk about some of the solutions that you're proposing or you're thinking about?
Well, I mean, a lot of the things that we on our side, and we're called the party no. I'm called Mr. No because I voted no on most of these expansions of government, if not all of them. And that's just because sometimes the right answer is no. And it's not because we don't have alternative ideas or plans. We do. My website has our agenda. And a lot of it has to do with the things that we know that have worked before. In the 80s, we had a stimulus plan. under President Reagan. They gave more taxpayer money back to small businesses, or I should say allowed them to keep their own money.
Yeah.
We didn't take it up here and then, you know, have a redistribution back to the people we thought was best to receive it. We just said, okay, people that you own your own money, you employ people, you're going to be hiring people, you keep the money. And so we did a huge tax cut. That worked, and it was a model that we should have used, and that was our plan. And we didn't do that. We decided that we were going to grow the size of government, have major, put on the back of our children, I'm sure, major deficits, major taxes. We're going to end the Bush tax cuts. We have cap and trade, which is going to require fees that are going to be very punitive to the middle class. Anybody that uses any kind of energy is going to pay, you know, out the ear, so to speak. And you know, so sometimes the answer is no. And with healthcare, you know, it's the same thing. It deals with where appropriate at the federal level, and I'm one that believes that a lot of this should be handled at the state level. Where appropriate at the federal level, more individual choices given, that we can open up state borders so people can compete nationwide for healthcare plans rather than just whatever they have in the state of Florida, in my case. And then also, you know, tort reform, which effectuates interstate commerce. Some people have made a very good argument that that's a state issue, but for any part of it that does effectuate interstate commerce, which is our responsibility under Article 1, Section 8. And those type of things, just more individual freedom, more personal choice by people without punishment from the federal government on being able to get there. So, you know, we have a good plan. Again, I urge you to go on my website, rooney.house.gov, and you can see specifically how it's all laid out. But the way that it's going now, and the way that the president spoke last night, is no different than is in their Bill 3200, in my opinion. The one thing that they said about tort reform was just something they're going to look at. That doesn't mean they're putting it in their plan. So there's no change, in my opinion, from what we heard last night versus what we've already seen, and what people have been coming out in mass to my town halls to protest and to debate. So
you see a lot of, when you held a couple of town halls when you came back to session, and you were one of the few congressmen in our area, member that would have a town hall. The only one that I know of that had a public one. A few of them had union town halls, or, you know, very select, and I think everyone was happy that, hey, we could have a town hall. Did you see a lot of discussion going on with the town hall and questions that you were able to, rather than an actual protest at these town halls?
yeah, and especially from the fact that we were open up to everybody, so we didn't have enough seats. And the one criticism I did get, and rightfully so, was that, you know, our venue wasn't big enough, but that's because we didn't have any restrictions on who was coming. There was no tickets. There was,
sure.
It was, we're having a town hall meeting, come to it. And you know, so but I thought the discussions, although heated at times, were very healthy and very real and emotional, and at some we even had people that were crying and screaming at me and screaming at each other, but for the most part it was a good debate, and that's what we are about as Americans, and I think that people are paying attention, which is why you saw the president give an unscheduled joint sessions of Congress speech last night.
Great.
So I think that you need to keep up what you're doing, because unfortunately, even though he gave that speech, there was nothing new in it. So when people ask what can I do, writing letters, calling congressmen, that stuff's all great. But what you guys are doing, getting on the news and getting to these town halls and showing up and showing real emotion, you know, I know tomorrow's a big day, 9/12, and you know, just keep up the fight, you know, keep pushing back, and, you know, hopefully eventually we'll get to a point. It might not be until next year's election. That's why we do this every 2 years. So
well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know you're very busy, and the personal sacrifice has to be a lot. You know, you have the small boys and the wife back home, and I know that when you came here, you didn't even have an apartment.
There's my cot right
It
there.
had a cot in the room over there. So the sacrifices, that a lot of people have read about, and that as a member of Congress that you're making, and I know you're trying to stay on top of all the bills and talk to the average citizen on the street, and we appreciate you doing that and having you as our congressman. So
Well,
thanks a
thank
lot
you.
for
Thanks,
meeting
everyone.
with us.
All the best.